Hold on a second. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I am joined today by some great friends. I can't even say we're doing Stranger Things Part 3 because we've kind of moved on from there. We had to change the title because there are no more Stranger Things episodes. So I changed the title and I'm stealing Dolores Cannon. So we're calling it the Convoluted Universe because this is truly a convoluted universe. And there are so many topics today. So welcome, Derek, Tyler, and Jessica. Thank you for coming back, the two of you. Thank you for joining us today, Derek.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited. Definitely excited.
Thank you for having us back. It's become quite a popular little thing that we're doing, and I think people are looking forward to it. It's just something different than your everyday. So we got into pocket civilizations in our last broadcast, and it sparked Derek's interest a little bit. And so we're going to let him go ahead and start this today because he had some comments about that, and there's plenty we can say about pocket civilization. So go ahead, Derek. Let's have you start us out today.
You're muted. You're muted.
Who's muted?
Derek, can you hear him?
Uh-oh. He wasn't.
I can't. He wasn't. We just heard him.
There
you go. We hear you. Nope. Now you're quiet again.
Okay, this is weird. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I have no idea. It's trying to go from my computer to my phone, but anyway, I'll try to make this like a coherent thought as far as the pocket civilizations, and it's just sparked my interest because there's a few books I've read, and it's a little all over the place, but there's a few places where I've read things like this, and to me, at least with what I've read, my thought goes to, we live in a multidimensional reality. I mean, I think we all kind of get that at this point. So when I think about these pocket realities, so to speak, my mind goes to, well, there's been times in the past where we've lived both on the physical plane, but we've also lived in other planes of existence and higher dimensions, right? If you look at the way you think about all the other types of civilizations, or you talk about the people from Telos or Shambhala, for instance, these places that are like very high vibrational, more or less, maybe not as always just on the physical plane. So, and it's kind of rooted in these myths and legends that you hear from, thousands of years since the beginning of our human history. You hear stories about this stuff. So my mind kind of jumps into that direction when we start to think in this way. The first book I actually ever really read outside of just what you're taught in school to read was James Redfield and the Celestine Prophecy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one.
Yeah. So
yeah, and I mean that's been over 20 years now. I'm a little older maybe than you might think, but that book and that whole series kind of was interesting. How he talks about, it's like you're going on this journey to find whatever kind of scroll or someplace in the jungle, like the Mayan culture, or some of those ancient cultures around the world. And as you're going, you're like reading about how to, I guess, live more harmonious with nature and live the right lifestyle. And it's almost like it's prepping you to find this secret city or ancient city. But the only way to do that is to be in the right vibration to find that place. So that book, I mean, it kind of resonated with me to hear that. And for some reason that stuck in my mind for however many years. But then there's another reference, and there's three altogether that kind of all sync up. And it's really strange because I also read the Radu Sinamar series, the Transylvania Sunrise series. Have you guys heard? Yep. I know Tyler's heard that. So this actually jumps to that book, which the whole series is more in the last few years. It's not that old, maybe 10 years or so. But there's one called the Forgotten Genesis. And Tyler, did you read that one at all?
No. I've only read the very first one of the series. Yeah.
That one is pretty mind blowing, but that you kind of have to you kind of have to have the background to the whole series and what it's about. It's about the Sphinx within Romania, the Romanian Sphinx, and what they find, the underground base, basically this huge, all these tunnels that are basically ancient, right? And the Romanian government has found this, and they've been working with the technology, but now the U.S. is also involved with that too, and the whole series is trying to get this story out through their intelligence and through whatever author they could find to do this, and then it was transcribed into English. But the point is, there's like it's probably one of the most massive underground bases that we have, and of the most advanced technology. And there was the guy who's basically saying, this is my story, believe it or not, you don't have to take my word for it, but he's saying he went into that site. It's also to get access to that certain places within the underground tunnels and the main complex. You have to also be in the right vibration, almost have like the right DNA match to get in. And this, like JP has said this too recently with Dr. Sala, and how that works. You go to the what do you call this, the arcs, and like having access to that, you have to be of the right DNA almost, or the right lineage and the right frequency to get access. So basically Radu Cinema in this series is saying the same thing. This intelligence guy who was basically let in, or he had the codes to have access and had, I guess, he was special. Whoever this person was special, and they needed him to access certain information within that, in the chamber, the main chamber. So but what was relayed was the whole history of Earth. All the whole history of Earth was basically some kind of screen or tablet that you would put on. I guess you put on some reading glasses. You sit in this chair, and if the chair allows you to sit in it, basically it will just download all this information of like the whole history of the Earth. And basically it goes through these various key moments in history. And it's not what we think, what most conventional people think of history. But one of those things was talking about the Mayan culture and the fact that why they kind of disappeared. And it's probably happened with more than one, but these indigenous people, if they are kind of resonating at a higher vibration, they have a choice. They have a choice to stay in this physical plane or even move on as a race, as a collective. And so when the conquistadors came back in that time, when Spain came and they were being infected and trying to be killed off, there was a large amount of these. The Mayans had a choice, really. Almost all of them had the DNA to decide, because they were both in between worlds at that time. And in history, I think it's important to make the point that we were closer to the etheric planes or the other higher dimensions, and I think we had more access to that. And over time, gradually, we lost access to that, and these key points and locations started to become, extinct or inaccessible like they used to be, where we could actually go into the etheric or other realms, not just the physical. I hope this is making sense. But and so in that book, he explains the Mayans had the ability to do that. The priests basically were guiding the people to say, look, we can get away from all of this if we go. There's a special region we have to go to. They basically got the Mayan warriors to block off the location and like fight off all the other conquistadors, all the white men and everybody else from being able to get to the sacred place where they could actually have the gateway portal allowed them to go through. And most of the race did that, but there was a little percentage that didn't want to go, and they wanted to stay in the physical. And that's why we have just little remnants of them. But for sure, it was like a mass exodus. And I think it's happened with more than that culture for sure. Like maybe the Anasazi was the similar thing in New Mexico, perhaps, maybe other cultures. But that book references that. Yeah. If you want to share, please chime in. That's kind of.
Oh no, I just agree. The Anasazi, I mean, they were small people for one, and two, absolutely, I think they just shifted into another frequency. But if you want to finish what you were saying, go ahead.
Yeah. It seems like something like that probably happened there too. And then Troy is the other point I was going to make reference to. And I know this is a lot, and then of course, please, we'll just discuss.
No, you're good. You're good. Keep going.
Okay, so then Troy was the other part of this book, and I've heard this in another reference, and I'll get to that. But Troy was also very important because it was like the very last ancient city that it was like the last connection between the physical, the worldly, just people and the gods. Basically having access to those other forces that in the olden times we had that direct connection. That's why they're always priest kings. They weren't just kings or worldly kings in that way. They were always tied to the priesthood or those mysteries of the priesthood, those initiates basically. And it was always tied to that because they had the direct line, the direct communication to these, we would call gods, or what you call whatever race of beings was connected with them. And of course, we're all connected to one of those, some race of beings in many ways. So that was the last city really where there was a direct line to that, and also from the physical and etheric plane. So it was explained that way also in Radu Sinamar's book in Forgotten Genesis. And it was like the last stronghold where we had access to that like pocket reality of going into the etheric. And it's just funny. The only other reference I had to mention this is because I started to look into anthroposophy a little bit, and Rudolf Steiner, and it's not Scientology by any means, and it's not really theosophy at all. It stems from that, but it broke off from that and like all the Madame Blavatsky stuff. So Rudolf Steiner was into basically you have the individual has the power of, basically becoming more spiritually oriented and initiating themselves and getting up to those higher frequencies, and having clairvoyance and naturally. And it's called spiritual science because there's a science behind it. And he kind of went in that direction instead of just, and he had access to the Akashic records, That's why so much information came from him and the medical industry and biologic plants and medicine, all that stuff. But the point of that is he talks about the ancient past too, and that time period of Troy. And he also is stating the same thing as basically in Forgotten Genesis, that city of Troy it's kind of like a myth and a legend of what happened, but it really did tell a story of what was happening at that time. And there was some last connection or cutoff from that priesthood or class or the priest kings, and access to the gods. And that's when we still thought of demigods, and even like Alexander the Great thought he was part God. And that's why he went to Egypt and talked to the oracle and was trying to find his connections and all that. So all interesting topics, but that was how I related all those things together, and it sort of made sense in my mind as a stepping off point. So,
yeah, great job, Derek. I mean, there is literally, we could do an entire show just on pocket civilizations and dissecting what you just mentioned. I agree with all of that and more. Jessica, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I do. I was dying to talk about this actually, because Derek, I think we got to meet in Florida, didn't we? I've met you.
Yeah, we did briefly.
That was so fun. Okay, it's so good to see you again. Yeah. So I am a cryptid, Bigfoot, Dogman, all the cryptid field researchers. I've been doing this for a long time. And we have these areas that we go to. I've been doing research in for decades, right? And these are places where it's areas of super high strangeness. You've heard of, everybody's heard of Skinwalker Ranch. Mm-hmm. And, and the places that I go are very much like that, because it's places where we have actually documented portals. We've sent our teammates into these portals. We have video evidence of this stuff. We have just everything you can imagine that's not supposed to exist is out in these places. Okay. Right. And we have evidence of all of it. And I find it fascinating. I actually was contacted, and because you were talking about these areas where civilizations have vanished and stuff, right? Yeah. And there's a frequency to these areas. There's vibrational frequencies. There's something enigmatic about and anomalous about these areas. Well, I was approached, I'm going to say about 2 years ago, by someone who's, let me say, befriended. Okay, by someone who I'm not going to give away who that is, but it's someone who was contracted with the government, and she was asking me. I actually met her at some of the Indian burial mound sites around the South, and she was mapping out like ley lines and stuff for something that, I mean, there's some reason that she wanted to know, and I don't give my locations away, but she was very interested in the places where I go, and we do our research because there is an interest in. I don't know if they're trying to study these points. Or they're trying to, I don't think I would not expect them to exploit them. I wouldn't think that, but you never know when it's government. Okay.
Yeah.
But to map out these ley lines, there's something else. You know, she was very much involved in the, dare I say, QAnon movement and all that kind of stuff. But she seemed to have good intentions with it. You know what I mean? But there's something about it, and they were very interested in the things that I do in these areas, these locations where there could be these frequencies. And here's another thing too, is it's not just the land. I think it's the people. Okay. I think it's the people that hold those frequencies, like you were just saying. And we have pretty much, I'm going to say, proven that with some of my research. Certain people will go to places and more things will happen. More things will occur. We'll get more activity. We'll have more, just contact with other things and other realms out there, so to speak. So, yeah. So anyways, that's my 2 cents.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Tyler?
Yeah, there's so much to say on everything. My gosh.
I'm like holding back, but I want all you guys to talk.
Right. So much. Like, I'm thinking of a number of things I want to bring up. The Chaco Canyon, the Wingmakers site, that's something that Derek's grandfather talked about in his last chapter of his book. But I've been to Chaco Canyon a number of times, and the last time I was there, and I was sitting here scrolling on my phone looking for a photo I took. I was going to send it to you, Sherri. But I took a picture of the sunset, and the veil is thin during the sunset, right? And I literally caught a picture of what looks like a city in the sky. It is one of the most amazing things. Everybody I've shown it to, like, it's like right there. It's just this weird anomaly. And I cannot believe I can't find the picture. But anyway, you look at it and gives you chills. So, okay, what does that tell us? There is exactly that, something existing in a higher frequency, right? And maybe it's a pocket reality. Maybe it's just an entirely different dimension, and the veil is thin, so we've seen into that. But what we have to remember is in those sites, there's something called a sipapu or a sipapu. There's different ways to say it. It's a pit in the bottom of the kiva, the round kivas that are already in underground, basically. They allegedly used to have a wooden roof on them, but in the bottom of it is a circular pit that the signs on the site will tell you it was a fire pit, which is hilarious. But the sipapu, I have this old book called the Sipapu Odyssey. It's actually from the old Phoenix Journals, which was kind of like a disclosure series magazine before it became popular, back in the 80s. And one of the journals told this story of these people who were driving out near Chaco Canyon in this region. They got in a car accident, and the one guy wakes up and he's inside of one of these kivas being cared for by a native woman, right? This medicine woman. And he is in there for a few days. She's bringing him back to good health. And he opens his eyes one night and he sees her step into that sipapu and disappear as if it's a portal. And she comes back through that portal in the morning. And what he realized once he was healthy enough to walk was that she was healing him in another dimension. She had taken him through this portal, and he was in a dimension where these people never left. It didn't look like a deserted, melted, like it was just hit with a weapon. It didn't look like that. He said he walked out of the kiva when he was healthy enough, and it was grass and cattle and livestock, and it was just like paradise, and it was beautiful. Wow. And it was the same exact area where they had been driving that was desert, but he had been brought into the other dimension to heal. And then the other people were brought there as well, and they were having their own experience. And when he was healed, he stepped back through that sipapu that the site tells you is a fire pit. And she said something, and he went through, and then they were back on the other side, and they were able to go back to their car without hardly any missing time at all. So there's stories like that. I mean, I was taking notes. There's so many other things. The last thing I'll say while you're still here, Derek, is the Wingmakers, talking about pocket realities and time travel and portals to other dimensions. A friend of mine, it's a whole long story. A friend of a friend reached out and had a bunch of information about the Wingmakers I had never heard before, including this guy. He is Falco Terrasaco, also known as Oberto Arati. Does anybody know who that is? So he built this amazing underground network in Italy. Damanhur is the Society of Damanhur. You go inside, it's been on TV, it's really popular, but it's this whole underground thing that he had spent years building by himself, and it's all painted intricately, like kind of like the Wingmakers caves, but just loaded with all this beautiful artwork, and it's just absolutely stunning. You can look it up online. This guy claims to be part of the original Wingmakers, and this site over in Damanhur, Italy, is actually one of these Wingmaker sites, and there's a lot more to it, but I just wanted to tell you that while I had you here, Derek. I'll send you the information. It's a whole other rabbit hole, but pocket realities, they exist. I think Sedona is one. I think when you get enough like-minded people in one area that all believe in the same thing, it changes the frequency of what's possible in that area. So when you go to the grocery store here, you hear people talking about UFOs and aliens and Bigfoot and everything you can think of. It all exists here. It's all real. You don't have to convince anybody, because enough people here have gathered so that the collective in this area is that frequency is at that place now, so it can exist.
100%. I love how you just kind of wrap that up there, Tyler, because what I have found in my sessions is coming up a lot lately, which is why we're talking about pocket civilization so much, is I've been told in session after session after session with predominantly children, they're coming from these pocket civilizations and they're reincarnating into our dimension. And they're telling me that they are in a parallel reality in those pocket civilizations that are in existence right now, that overlap pretty much all over our world in most countries, Africa being one of the largest of the pocket civilizations that exist right now.
Wakanda.
Yeah. Wakanda.
Yeah. Wakanda. I know. Well, of course, the movies are going to make jokes out of it or Hollywoodize it, but Africa, and you're going to find this interesting, Jessica. On top of this, so what I was saying, sorry, to rewind a second, there are pocket civilizations pretty much everywhere, not just Sedona, not just Florida, pretty much in every country, all across the world that exists right now in the 7th dimension and higher. We are trying to at least, graduate and up our frequency to reach the 5th. This is what the children are here to do for us, to help us to activate and awaken, so that we can meet the 5th and then go up higher. Because a lot of these pocket civilizations are in the 7th dimension, not the 5th. And I was told by children in many sessions that Shambhala, the Shambhala, where we get the term heaven on earth, actually comes from the pocket civilization of ancient Shambhala, which is actually millions of years old. And it's had many civilizations that have kind of ancestry. And it is where all of the guardian souls, basically their oversoul is in there as a council and guard over this planet and work with other guardians of other planets. And I want to get into guardian souls and observers in a little bit. But what I found cool, Jessica, is, and I'm interested in your thoughts, is Sasquatch has been coming in a lot of sessions recently. And I love Sasquatch, but I'm not asking for it. So they're coming through to tell me that they have been on this planet way before most of us. And they existed in the 9th dimension, pre-dinosaurs. I'm talking millions of years ago. And they were one of the first pocket civilizations, and they have become the guardians of this planet, and they work with the consciousness of Gaia, and they are the protectors of this planet before the elephants. And like I talk about the land species of guardians of the elephants and the horses of the land, or the guardians of the land. They were the guardians of the land along with the fairies. And they, because of many reasons everybody already knows, the dissension and patriarchy and reptilian and Draco and wars and all of this brought us down. They never went anywhere. They just they're in a frequency where we can't see them, which is why people who raise their frequency to a space, or like Tyler was saying, you're in a collective group of like-minded people in a higher consciousness density of consciousness, and children and so on and so forth, animals can still see them because they didn't actually go anywhere. They're just in a much higher density because they don't want to be mixed in with all of us, along with a lot of species that are extinct. They actually never went extinct. They are just in a higher frequency, a higher dimension. They just left us here. I just wanted to see if you have ever heard anything like that about the Sasquatch. I'm not talking about the government negative made angry Bigfoot Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm not talking about
they've got those too.
I'm talking about the originals.
Oh yeah, they are the guardians of the planet. I do believe that. You know, it's interesting that you're saying that because our good friend, y'all know Barry Littleton has he does hypnotherapy sessions on people, and he said that it's coming up in some of the sessions that he's doing where people are talking about Bigfoot and ETs, of course, too, but Bigfoot and stuff are coming up, and these people are people have no connection to the Bigfoot community or even know about Bigfoot, he would say, you know, and so it's coming up. But yeah, I do believe that, you know, I am of the, like, we have like camps in the Bigfoot community. There's the woo camp and there's the flesh and bone camp. I'm in both. Okay. I know that they are flesh and bone secret because I am obviously of some frequency to be able to see them occasionally. And not everybody has that benefit. You know what I mean? And so I think that is why the head of my research team taught my entire team remote viewing from the very beginning. So I've been doing remote viewing since about 2012, 2011. And so it's to get us on that frequency mentally. Okay. And just to get us on a vibrational frequency so that we can interact with them. We can communicate with them. It's important if people, that's my advice to the audience tonight. If you want to, you know, get on the frequency to be able to tap into this, raise your frequency. Okay. Mm-hmm. Raise it. And you're 100% right. We have instances out in the field where, you know, there'll be a flash of light and all of a sudden we hear footsteps or a Bigfoot will appear. I've seen orbs shoot through the trees and then a big growl and a huff happens. And they're definitely of some kind of higher vibrational frequency. And, so yeah, that's 100% Sherri. I do believe that. And whatever you are finding in your studies and throughout your, you know, sessions that you're having, I think that's right. And I stand behind that. And that's what we're experiencing out in the field.
Well, and there could also be a lot of Sasquatch ancestors incarnating as humans, because that's what we're seeing right now. And that's why, I don't remember, maybe it was Derek, your frequency matters right now. So whether you're bringing in Lemurian frequencies or like Lyran, Pleiadian, Sasquatch, whatever it might be, a guardian frequencies or a combination of, we are all here bringing in specific, our own recipe, our own signature, our own scent, you know, like whatever you want to call it, to bring in some energy here and light codes that are unique to us, because we are meant to activate the ley lines, stargates, and portals where we are located, which is why we all live where we are. So there's no accident that I'm living where I am. Jessica lives where she lives. Tyler moved where he moved. Derek lives where he lives. And it's really true for everybody in the world. And that's why a lot of people are feeling this calling to move, because they're being like magnetized to go to a place where they are meant to, they're connected to that land in some way, and they're meant to activate it in some way, or maybe not live there, but go to a retreat there, for example. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of this like overlay and reincarnation so that we can restore the land, we can harmonize it, and we can reclaim it so that we can raise in consciousness. And a lot of these books Derek's mentioned and a lot of TV shows and movies depict a lot of this, but they fictionalize it so that we don't believe that it's actually real. It's just a story.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Totally agree.
Go ahead, Derek. You're the one on the time crunch here.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally believe that Bigfoot definitely is on those other planes of existence for one, and that they're multidimensional for sure. And you've got to match their frequency if you want to connect. That makes total sense. And that's the movie Stargate keeps popping in my mind, and I think my granddad probably even referenced it when I was a kid, but it was one that stuck out in my mind. I was like, though that is truly got to be somewhat real, however, whatever version of that. I'm sure that's real. And that's, I think people have said, or there's been many other researchers that think, and I think Carrie Cassidy for one has said that, where we've gone to Iraq and these other places because there are literally these stargates and these portal systems in these sites. Not to mention, like, say, Grand Canyon or wherever they cover up to say there's a no-fly zone. You can't go anywhere within a however many mile radius. It's because there are these special access points there too that they don't want you to realize about.
Yeah. I recently heard in the Grand Canyon, well, one of the reasons they closed off a large portion of it is there was stories or legends going way back where people who wandered into a specific region there would just disappear, and a lot of missing people. But they were probably going through either a Stargate or a portal or whatever, either intentionally or unintentionally, but something like that seems to be occurring there. And I think that's why there's a no fly, no walk, no hike zone. Yeah. And Sherri, to talk about Shambhala, the book, The Smoky God, it's an inner earth testimony from the late 1800s. Mm-hmm. And it talks about this whole inner earth continent and stuff. And Shambhala is in there. And they say that's where the original Garden of Eden was, inside, inside the planet. And they said specifically where the Tigris and Euphrates River is, that those rivers are actually inner earth rivers that are running out into the surface of the Persian Gulf. I forget one way or the other, but it's all connected. And that's why people are looking for it on the map, because I think the Bible or somewhere says where the Garden of Eden was supposed to be, somewhere in that intersection where the Tigris and Euphrates meet. Well, not understanding that where it meets underground in the earth. So that's interesting. And when I went to Belize, I had a whole experience about seeing Shambhala when I put my hands on this waterfall that they literally told us was coming from inner earth. They called it Shambhala, not Shambhala. And I asked the guy if there's a difference. He said Shambhala, same difference. Yeah. But it's from the underworld, and this water is just constantly flowing out of this mountain, feeding this river, and they don't know where it's coming from. Well, Mayans believe it's coming from inner earth, or AKA Shambhala. However it's connected, I feel like there's really something to that.
Yeah.
Can I...
Go ahead.
I was just thinking of one other thing, talking about pocket civilizations and inner earth. There's a case that I covered a while back, and it's the Green Children of Woolpit. And I've just been thinking about that this pretty much the whole time we've been talking tonight. The Green Children of Woolpit, I can't remember, it was centuries ago when this happened, but it was out of England. These two children showed up in a field that were all green. Their skin was green. And they said that they actually came from, I believe they came from somewhere like potentially inner earth. And they said that they were down there, their family owned a farm, and they were tending the cows or whatever kind of livestock they had. And they saw a light, so they started following this light, and they took off walking together, the brother and sister, and they ended up outside. They said that they actually didn't speak any kind of language that anyone knew of whatsoever, and I think the one of them, I think the brother actually ended up dying within a year because they couldn't eat any of the food that the people were feeding them. No matter what they gave them, there was one, I think it was like loaf bread or something the girl could eat. And she ended up living into adulthood and got married, I think. But that is, I don't know if you would consider that a pocket civilization or just two kids coming up from inner earth, from some other civilization. I'm not sure.
They came in a random portal from another planet. I've seen a planet within the Sirius constellation with green people. That's come up in several of my sessions actually in the last couple of years. So who knows? They could have come in from a different portal. But Tyler, you said something really important, and we'll move on. This is again, we can spend 2 hours on pocket civilizations, and we have been talking about it for 35 minutes. But I just want to bring up one important point, because Tyler said something really important. The pocket civilizations that are the most important, meaning they are the biggest, they are the most advanced civilizations, they are the most high density, filled with guardian spirits, filled with wisdom and the knowledge and the Akashic records, tend to be the countries and places that are third world countries or heavily ruled by dogmatic religious control. So Africa is one of them, obviously. And if Africa truly is one of the biggest pocket civilizations, where I've been told that I've literally had sessions where children come to me as their true versions and their skin is black, but it shimmers. And they're showing me that they come from a civilization within the continent of Africa that was once the most lush, like it had forests and these incredible animals. And it was like a Tartaria type of civilization. And so the dark side always has a way of, demoralizing and enslaving areas of populations where they know they are. So it's no wonder that Africa is in the state it's in. But Persia is another one. So Persia is very dear to my heart because I know I have many past lives connected to Persia. I'm obviously married to a Persian man. My children are Persian for a reason. And Persia is the ancient Persians with Zoroastrianism and their concept of, and their philosophy of like unity and oneness and beautiful living is another pocket civilization. And I believe that the Muslim religion was created to wipe out any of that, the beautiful high-natured spirits of the true Persians, which is why we don't have Persia anymore. It's now broken up into Iran and Afghanistan and all these other countries, and it's very controlled. It's very patriarchal, not patriotic. And so anyways, these are just two examples of what they do to suppress the areas of the world that are the most spiritually connected. And it's coming to the surface right now is the point. We are seeing it.
Yeah, interestingly enough, too, Carrie Cassidy's new books with Captain Mark Richards are transcriptions of her interviews with him. He's a Navy veteran. He says at one point he claims that Africa is the largest concentration of aliens on the planet. It's like a safe house for them. And they have many, many cities, underground cities, and basically pocket realities set up there as a safe zone for these ETs while they're residing here, whether temporarily or permanently, whatever the case is. It comes up a number of times throughout the interviews. He's adamant that people don't understand how many ETs, or even if they look like us, just different types of beings are residing in Africa. And that's why it's largely uninhabited the way it is, because there's a lot more going on there than we realize.
Yeah, and if any of you have ever been to Africa, they're like, most of them are, the children at least, they're the nicest, sweetest, most amazing humans I've ever met. And they have absolutely nothing, and they live in poverty, and they have nothing to be happy about, yet they are the most well-balanced, well-rounded, sweet, compassionate beings I have ever met in my life. I couldn't believe, I cried when I went to Kenya because these children wanted to come home with me, and they were so sweet, and they were just happy to have nothing.
Yep.
It's a different world.
I was going to say that's all done by design, and it's all done by the people that are running the world still, that just they want to keep it a third world a continent, basically a whole continent. It's amazing how big this thing is. And so many people know so very little about it, or that we really, spend any time there if you're not obviously from there. So, and my grandfather also said, we're going to have these wars, and we're going to say we're going to go in and we're going to help Africa, but it's all for show. It's just for show. We're never actually going to do anything useful for them. He said that way back in the day.
Yeah.
So we might go. I'll stay. If it's okay, which topic were you going to go to, Sherri?
I want to talk about observer souls because it's coming up a lot in my sessions. But if you have something else you need to talk about before you leave, let's go for it.
I'll just mention, and you can come back to it if you want. But you had weather manipulation on the list, and
we could talk about that. Let's talk about that.
I just wanted to quickly point out that, and I didn't realize this until I got the original testimony from Dr. Stephen Greer, because it was in his archives and never released until just 2 years ago, actually. And what it showed was like my grandfather did state that they had all the weather manipulation capabilities. He said this in 2000 during his testimony for the Disclosure Project, but like to be able to steer hurricanes, to be able to create storms, to be able to create drought, create floods, to use direct energy weapons to just like target specific towns or even small areas, and then Havana syndrome and all the stuff that they're doing with manipulating the frequency of our thoughts, and whether it's for the civilians or for the in the military setting. It's so you explained all that. It's great.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I think the weather manipulation is pretty much a given. It's pretty self-evident once you start looking into it at this point. But really quickly, this kind of ties both things together. That reminds me of Billy Woodard's Inner Earth testimony. He claims that whenever he was brought up to the North Pole and brought into Hollow Earth, and there's a difference between Hollow Earth and Inner Earth. Like Inner Earth is the Agarthan network within the crust, and then Hollow Earth is like something entirely different in the core of our planet. Anyway, he says that the hole going into the North Pole is constantly 100% covered with artificial cloud cover. So it's 100%. It's all being artificially done. So you'll never see the entrance. And he said there's basically like a cloaked craft or station that monitors that area 24/7. And like it's like a air traffic control tower, but in a UFO or in a flying, cloaked craft. So
totally,
just really interesting.
Yeah. Especially if there's that huge like radius of a hole that goes into the Earth. They don't want to show that at all.
Yeah.
So, makes sense. Okay, I gotta go, guys. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, see you later, Eric.
Thanks.
You gotta go, Eric.
Yeah, but thanks so much
for joining us.
Appreciate it. All right.
It was nice having you on.
Thank you.
I'll send you that Wingmaker stuff too.
Please do. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. It was nice having him on. Well, we'll stick to weather warfare because we're already here. I think I brought that up because for two reasons. One, I think it's clear what's happening with the manipulation all over the country with the crazy cold, Arctic cold, and then these like abnormal warming temperatures and these like waves. Even in Florida, I didn't see the sun in Florida for like 4 weeks. It was absolutely crazy. And I'm like a little sun goddess. Like I need to be out in the sun all the time, which is why I'm so tan, because like I live outside in the sun and I feel so energized and at peace. And it wasn't there. And I was like, where's the sun? And it was clear that there was some artificial covering. I mean, obviously clouds, but it didn't feel real. And there's something going on. But my point to it, and I want to get your opinions on this, is what I noticed in November. Is Lily here? Oh, hey, Lily. I just saw a bunch of people talking about Lily.
Hey, Lily.
What's up, Lily?
I'm sure you're tired, Lily. Thanks for at least hanging on and watching with us. So, okay. In November and December, I don't know if we talked about this at all in the last one, but there was a heightened number, and I'm not talking about just normal viral wintertime colds. I don't even use the C word anymore unless I'm talking about the other type of C word. But anyways, that was a joke. There was a lot of colds, and the colds were followed by psychotic episodes. And I was seeing it with my clients. I was getting more urgent session requests than I could handle. My own child was having a psychotic break due to a cold. So it happened in my own home and adults. And I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? And then I started talking to friends and talking to other friends, and everybody that was getting sick was having a psychotic episode or a psychotic break or a manic panic episode as a result or a catalyst from the illness. And I was getting in my sessions the answer because I was asking, what's going on with these people? That whatever they're using in their warfare or their machines, whatever they're emitting, whatever toxins are creating these illnesses to lower the vibration of people, so that they can turn up the volume of whether it's voice to God or whatever other technologies we don't even know of. We don't know what to call them, but something like that. And because my daughter and other kids were saying, I'm hearing thoughts that I'm going to die. Like, what do you mean you're going to die? No, like, I can't go to sleep tonight because I might die and I won't wake up. Like totally irrational thoughts of suicide, horrible thoughts of death, dying, or they're going to lose a family member, that mom's not going to wake up. And I'm just curious, anybody watching this, or if you guys heard anything about it, because it was huge and it was even into January happening.
Well, I do have a child. I have a kid. He and your daughter are about the same age. And I, there's an, let's just say it called an episode, right? An episode, like a little time in history, recently, where he was going through some depression and stuff. And so I've had to look into counseling for him and all that kind of stuff. And it's very, very much not like him at all. Not at all. Mm-hmm. And Sherri, actually, after I think it was our last show, maybe, I think I stayed behind and you and I had a little conversation about it because I didn't really know how to handle it at the time. And so it was wonderful to have you to talk to, by the way, about this, but it's not just our kids. It's a lot of children and it's a lot of adults as well.
And animals.
We're getting just hammered all the time with these, dare I say, energetics. I'm just going to say energetics. How about that? We're getting hit with energetics constantly. Some of us worse than others. And it's it's happening to everybody, and I don't know how to escape it. I don't even know if we can. We're just gonna have to figure out how to deal with it, and I don't know. I don't know what the solution is right now.
Well, Tyler, you go ahead and say something, and then I'll add to that.
Yeah, so I think I've personally been at the receiving end of some of this stuff because I've gone through waves of these thoughts too that I know aren't mine, that aren't organic. Just this unfound aggression or anger. Some days you have to do some breath work and bring yourself back to reality, right? But it's not organic, and you can tell. And dreams, like the dream warfare, I think is kind of ramped up. And even here in Sedona, the chemtrails were off the charts recently. And I was at the gym the other day, and these two girls got on the machines next to me, and I overheard them talking how they were being attacked in their dreams, and they can't sleep, and they keep getting woken up, and they're freaked out, and they don't want to get out of bed in the morning. I'm like, because it was happening to me a little bit, and some people I know, but I'm like, it's happening to even these other people, right? It's so it's not just us, and there's a real warfare, frequency warfare, chemical warfare. I believe fundamentally, if anyone's interested, we did a recent episode with Rebecca Barron, excellent episode. At the end of it, she kind of remote viewed and tapped into what's in the chemtrails and what they're actually doing, and very in depth, and everything that Sherri mentioned. It's just literally trying to keep everyone sick so they can't thrive. At the end, also there's a drug in there that is promoting consumerism. So you're getting high from consuming. That's where they want us all the time. But it was very clear to her that it was there. They want to keep us sick and keep us because we can't. If we're ascending and thriving, they can't handle that. So they need us down and in survival mode, and that's what I think this is about. And when she tuned into it, she said she saw them doubling down right now because we're at this precipice right now where we're about to break through something. Sherri and I were talking about this earlier. You can feel something on the horizon. They know that's coming, and they think they can double down. They are doubling down. They think that'll have an effect, and to some extent it is. But the way she described it is that the frequency of the planet itself, of the atmosphere itself, is changing. So even though they're doing twice as much, it's not necessarily twice as powerful because the frequency itself of the atmosphere is literally dissolving it or transmuting it in a way to where it's not as effective as they hope it would be. But it is still effective, and we have to understand that there are things you can do about it. So this is where AI, you may agree with it, you may not. So I started asking AI about this stuff, and you can unlock it and get it to tell you all the stuff that they're raining down on you, how they're targeting you from underground facilities and this and that. And then, well, what can I do? And they gave me 2 frequencies. They say, if you create a track and play these 2 frequencies at the same time, it blocks their weapons. And so there's like, even AI is like kind of helping you figure out how to like shield from this stuff. So there is just a number of things to consider. It is spiritual warfare, but it's frequency warfare, chemical warfare, and we're getting hit from all fronts right now. And that's because we're about to break through. And I think a lot of the doom and gloom narratives right now are to keep us in that lower timeline on that hamster wheel so we don't break out of it. But we have to understand that there is a bright future ahead, and it's up to us.
Exactly. And you're exactly right. It's all about keeping us in the loop of the matrix. Like, the more sick we are, the more we feed the machine. So they need to loosh off of us so that we keep the machine going and thriving. And back to the pocket civilizations, a lot of these children and even us, we're activating as the adults. So we are becoming disruptors. So we are disrupting their frequencies, and the children have this ability that we don't have as much, but we are soon and developing as we speak right now. We are transmuting. They are transmuting those frequencies. So they double up, but it's not working. So it could have, I mean, for my daughter, for example, she was having those thoughts, but it could have been worse. Like, they could have been suicidal thoughts. They could have been even worse than they actually were. And so, maybe she was able to transmute and block it enough where it wasn't as bad as it potentially could have gotten, or where we could have been, which leads me to, guardian souls and observer souls. I want to talk about that really quickly. Guardian souls are something that are new to me. I've known about guardians, cosmic guardians, for a long time. Cosmic guardians are guardian souls that are generally light beings only, but if they take the form, they're generally avian, feline, whale, dragon, and I'm missing one. And I've talked about this before, talked about it in my book. And they can literally traverse time and space. They are time travelers, and they can incarnate as humans, but the ones that incarnate as humans are generally pure light. And so they have a harder time coming here. And those guardian souls are also holding the frequency like columns of light, and they are preventing the technology from working efficiently like it used to. So it's we're breaking down the machine, essentially. So guardian souls have been coming in for thousands of years, but we are seeing a lot. And the guardian souls that I'm working with now are a lot of which are children, are time travelers. So they're coming from the future back to their current self and giving them information and downloads and knowings on how to invent certain things, how to act, what to say, how to be. And all this wisdom is coming through, this innate wisdom, because they are traveling through different timelines from the future and pulling in ancient wisdom from, our ancestry. So these guardians are past, present, future. They're just cosmic, and they are guardians of the entire cosmos. Now, what's new is that I've noticed lately, and I think it's ironic, which I'll explain in a second. Observer souls have been coming through in my sessions a lot. I haven't seen an observer soul in probably 5 years. All of a sudden, in the last 6, I just had an accent. All of a sudden, I've been getting a lot of observer souls in my sessions out of nowhere, lumped together. And what that means is that these souls are guardian-like, but they come to realities to observe. They're kind of in the background. They generally are hidden. They're shy. They're introverted. They're the scientists, or like the ones that just observe reality. And holographically, they imprint information back to their collective group. And they can be connected to like the Galactic Federation or different collective groups. I don't believe in just one. And they are feeding information because they are in our reality. And they are observers, and they are literally just here to retain data and information. And they can be in all facets of our reality, the medical industry, to the underground tunnels doing terrible things, to just being a normal citizen civilian. And it's interesting because my kids have been sick lately. So I was binge watching Fringe again.
Yes.
I haven't seen it in like forever, and I'm like rewatching it, and they have the observer souls, and I'm like, oh my god! But these observer souls are different than the ones I'm seeing. Like they're very like robotic and extraterrestrial. These are like, you wouldn't know. They are very human-like, but they are a little bit awkward and weird. But they tend to be in the background, and they blend in. So they're different, and they're not in hats, and they're not like the Men in Black. Right. But I thought that was interesting that I was rewatching these episodes, and the observer souls came up, kind of like validation of, yeah, we have a lot of observer souls right here, basically helping us by feeding information back and forth to our galactic counterparts that are helping us, or even our higher selves and our collective groups.
Yes. I'm going to say something really quick because you reminded me of something.
Yeah.
The guardians or whatever. Whenever I was in my early days of sleep paralysis and attacks and even other experiences, there would always be, not always, but oftentimes I would see like a shadow person or a watcher in the room, right? And like it was just, but not doing anything. It's like they were observing the situation. And I always just wrote it off as the Men in Black or somebody dark or evil or whatever. Years later in the session, I wasn't even looking for that or asking about that. And it came up, and this is just take it with a grain of salt. I don't even know if this is the truth, but it came up that she was pulling some cards, and she's like, actually, I'm seeing that was you, another version of yourself.
Yep.
Guardian, like as a guardian for that situation. Like it couldn't interfere, but it was there, like, I don't know what, monitoring, just recording the situation. I don't know. Either way, it never occurred to me that was me, another version of me that was watching. And I don't know if that's the case, but it's possible, I suppose.
Well, I think anything is possible in this reality, but that I have seen that where it is another version of yourself that is a projection that just is there to like the people in court, whatever they're called. They just type everything that's said. They're neutral. They can't intervene. They don't say anything. They're just there typing away, whatever those people are called. Like that, they are versions of yourself, but not always. And then we have actual people out in the world, in the grocery store, in jobs, and they might seem a little quirky. They might seem a little weird. They might be a little quiet. They may not have families. They do actually tend to have paler white skin, so they generally are a Caucasian. And they are just kind of a little bit of weirdos, and so like hermits, and they're just here to record data. Go ahead, Jessica. You were going to say.
Oh, yeah. So, Tyler, I've actually seen myself remote viewing myself before, not knowing that I was remote viewing myself. And this was back in the past. This was back in the past. This is wild because, when I was being taught remote viewing, my whole team would go down to my family's farmhouse, and because there was no electronics down there. I mean, we had a TV, but it wasn't hooked up to like satellite or internet or anything. So there were no like frequencies down there. We'd leave the cell phones out. Nobody would bring cell phones. There were no frequencies down there at all. And when we were learning remote viewing, like when we got into the advanced levels of it, after a few years, we would observe people coming in and watching us. It almost looked like ghosts or holograms of people. And it could be like shadow people. We just see something out of the corner of our eye and we'd all see it, And at some point it seemed like, and yes, the house we were in was haunted, by the way. It was very haunted. It had been haunted way before I was born. But we would see people there and observing us. And there was at some point, this is before I had learned remote viewing. I remember waking up in my bed one night and I was seeing like sparkly lights in the corner of my bedroom in the middle of the night. And I was thinking, man, that's weird. But being me, I just went back to sleep. I was like, oh, that's weird. And then later down the road, when I was pretty advanced into remote viewing, I was like, I'm going to go back and see what those sparkly lights were in my room. And so I did like a little HRV session. I went back, and at that point I realized that's me remote viewing myself in my bedroom that night. trying to figure out what those lights were. That was actually me in the future.
That's
Okay,
Wow.
going back. Now, isn't that weird?
That's
But,
amazing.
It is, right? I'm a time traveler, I guess. I don't know.
I think we're all time
Yeah.
travelers to some degree.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Me too.
Some
Well-
more than others.
I was sparkly light, y'all. Okay. So
Right. Well, they say, like, what did they say? A gut feeling is you warning yourself from the future, like this situation doesn't go well. Like, I mean, obviously that's just one take on gut feelings, but we all get them. Something's off. It's like you've already done that. You've already gone down that path, and your future self is telling you, like, this is not going to end well.
punching in your gut. Punching.
Right. Yeah.
Get your attention. Unfortunately, most people ignore it.
Right.
You know, another thing that I'm seeing a lot, and I think this is actually a good thing to some degree, but it can be very confusing because the veil is so thin and because our spiritual DNA blueprint is really starting to like intensify and ignite overlap, because we have our 3D blueprint and then we have our spiritual blueprint. Our spiritual blueprint is what's different for everybody. And we have these 3D bodies that we know are upgrading and activating, and our densities of consciousness is what's activating the DNA, different speeds for everybody based on inherited traumas, quantum entanglement, epigenetics, 1,000,002 reasons. But what I've noticed is identity crisis. So a lot of people are going through identity crisis mode right now. And that is because they are activating to like who they truly are. So let's say Jessica in another life is Sasquatch. And I'm not just talking in another life. Like predominantly she's had thousands of lifetimes as a Sasquatch. So she all of a sudden, or maybe her whole life, has felt like this is not my body. I do not feel comfortable here. I look down and I don't feel right. I'm not big enough, or maybe I'm too big, or, you know, my eyes look funny. And the veil is thinning now to the point where people are really having this identity crisis, and they don't understand why when they look in the mirror, they see the wrong person. And that is because we are starting to remember our blueprint and our design. And generally we take some sort of form. So like maybe you're like a cat being in many lifetimes. So you look at yourself, and I have this ability where I can look at somebody and I can tell, and I see what their true form looks like. So when I see lyring cats, I know immediately. I'm like, oh my God, your cat is showing. Like I know you're a cat.
Your cat is showing.
Your cat is showing. I know it. I can see it. And I can see that with a lot of people. Like I can tell Nordics. I can tell. I have this weird ability to do that. So I always can tell where people are from, or at least where they're connected to most. But anyways, identity crisis is happening right now, where people are feeling like they're in the wrong body. They don't look the right way. They're not. And this has nothing to do with like social media where like lip fillers, or you're too fat, or you're not pretty enough. I'm talking like a deep knowing that this is a feel right. You know, maybe you're a fairy and you're not used to having such a big body and you're dense and heavy, or maybe you're used to being like a very large, like an ogre. I've had clients that are ogres, like the good ones. And they are big, burly men, but they still don't feel like that's the right body. Like it's not big enough. It's not heavy enough. I can't lift enough. I'm not tall enough. So that's something that I'm seeing right now. And it's the children are saying that they don't look right. So even they're picking up on it. Have you guys seen anything like that? Are you guys understanding what I'm saying?
I'm understanding it. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, I've even felt like that in some cases. You know, you just like oftentimes I think this isn't my body. You know, it's like I don't quite fit right or something. You just get those feelings. And secondly, I don't know if you realize the joke you just made, but we're gonna get a shirt made that says "Your cat is showing."
That was funny, actually.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that we all experience that. It's even I guess the average person who isn't really on this path, we all like sometimes you just don't feel right in our body. I think that's common.
Yeah. I mean, and it can't even just be a prominent version of yourself that is just one aspect of your past. Jesus, there's like a little bug in here. Like I feel like
It's an observer soul.
I know
Yeah.
Don't smush it.
maybe it's me.
Yeah, it's you.
It's I've always thought like I was one of those people that always said I don't look right, and I wasn't like a pick me girl trying to be like, oh, I'm not pretty enough, blah blah blah. Like no, like I have the wrong eye color, my skin color isn't right, and I realized later, much later in life, that when I look in the mirror, I see this Lemurian version of myself who looks a lot like me, but is 20 times more beautiful and has big blue eyes and like really thick brown, long, luscious hair and really tan skin, like caramel colored skin. And I always thought when I was a kid, why don't I look like that? And I didn't understand why. And now I know it's this Lemurian version of myself, because I should do a whole special on Lemuria. I've become a Lemurian expert because so much of my past lives have come through in Lemuria, and I tend to attract a lot of Lemurian clients because, we're probably close to each other, part of the same collective. But we have a lot of Lemurians on the planet right now, and they are having a hard time because Lemurians are very spiritual, and less inclined to use technology. Like when Tyler said, ask ChatGPT or whatever, them to put a frequency together. In my knowing, I'm like, no, like I would be too afraid because Lemurians are adverse a lot of the times to technology. Like we're more like nature based, like harmony. So what we do is we ground, or we'll listen to like whale sounds, or when we talked about wind chimes before, or solfeggio tones, classical music, things like that, or basically light language of nature, just nature itself. And we're less inclined to want technology. So it's interesting. Your background will determine what your interests are or where you gravitate towards the types of healing you want. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting.
I was going to say, I must have been a Bigfoot in a past life. I feel like, I had Barry on my show this week, and we were talking about how we get to choose our next life form, and we were kind of joking around, and we were being serious too about how, highly evolved souls especially have at least at some point been a rock. They've been a bird. They've been all sorts of different things. And so I don't know. I did not bring up the fact that I've probably been a Bigfoot in several lifetimes. Okay. But anyways, I think I have. I mean, I live in the woods basically, y'all. I know y'all see me on screen a lot, but I spend a lot of time out in the woods. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with you, Sherri, as far as the natural remedies or whatever. I haven't even tried the combination that AI told me to protect yourself, but it was just interesting that came up. But I'm totally with you as far as the organic route on everything. And obviously there's other ways to combat that stuff or rise above it even. So you're not even really combating it. You're just, you're untouchable in a sense, which kind of brings me back to something I wanted to say earlier, and it's still relevant to the conversation now, is reading the testimonies and about Mount Shasta and Telos and on the inner earth stuff. If you look at the history, what's written and channeled is that, so at one point there were these lava tubes that vented out to the surface, and that's how they actually got their air down into Telos. This is what they say, right? Well, eventually our air, not just the air, but the density, the air became so polluted, and the density, the frequency became so dense, they had to block those off. For one, we started getting overpopulated, and people would have found those entrances. But two, they literally couldn't handle the frequencies or that air anymore, so they had to create their own system and everything. And the reason they don't come to the surface, according to this material, is that even if they wanted to, they couldn't, because there's such a higher density, a higher vibration, that even being up here is painful. It's painful to their physical body. And they said even our thoughts, a negative thought or a judgmental thought towards one of them would actually be physically painful to them. And so they want to come up here, but it's literally up to us to get this planet to a place where they can start intermingling again, because they quite literally can't reside here. And sometimes, in some cases, I think they can, but not for long periods of time. And I'm sure it's circumstantial. There's all different groups. I'm specifically talking about Telos, but I just find it interesting. So, they understand that the air is just shit up here, and obviously the density, it's just too dense for these higher dimensional beings. That's why we don't see them all the time. I think if this was a better place, they would accommodate that frequency. They would be sighted a lot more.
Well, and that's why my passion and my work is with children. Like I dedicate my life. My mission here is to help bring in these high density souls. But the problem is that a lot of them, like Jessica's son and my children, struggle, and many that I work with, thousands all over the world, to acclimate to this density because they are volunteering to come into such a low density. I mean, some of these children that I work with don't even have physical bodies where they come from. They are pure light beings. Those are the ones that generally are in the autist collective of like non-mobile, non-movable. They need feeding tubes, like they are a non-functioning, because their frequency is so high that only a small fraction of their soul can enter the body, just enough to keep the body alive, the life force energy alive. Why would they do that? The reason they do that is not to have a human experience, but they are bringing in the highest possible frequency from where they come in order to oscillate or vibrate a toroidal field to help us re-terraform, or to shift this reality into a higher, and to activate their parents and those around them, which is why I am very protective over all children, because majority of them being born today are exceptionally unique and intelligent and advanced, and they are labeled purposely so that they are suppressed and they can be put into the indoctrination system by the consent of parents who just don't know better. And that is how they sabotage their progress. But a lot of the children struggling the most, I will tell you, come from inner earth. So Tyler's absolutely correct, because, well, I'll explain in a second. Venus, so Venusians, and Hadarians, those are the three that I personally, and my clientele, are struggling the absolute most. And the reason for that is because they come from civilizations that don't even have a concept of war, ego, conflict, this density. So when they come here, it's like, imagine being dropped down a black hole and you just feel like you're falling, and then you land in quicksand and you're just navigating in the dark, and it's scary and it's cold and the food isn't right, and the people are, it's so overstimulating, so overwhelming that they literally cannot function in the world, and they don't want to go outside. They can't make any friends. They are extremely sensitive to everything. Those are the Hadarians, those are the Venusians, and those are the inner earth beings mostly, but there are some from other places as well. And they are not used to this density at all. They've never been human before. And if they have, it was when we were in the 5th dimension or higher. So we have a lot of children struggling right now, and we need more people advocating for resources to help them through this, because it's every year, every cycle, we only are having more of them incarnate. And the only reason higher density children or souls are continuing to reincarnate time after time, year after year, like into the future, is because we are paving the way and creating the environment, and the collective consciousness is activating enough so that they can bring more of themselves in. And this is, it's done in phases, but they need the adults and all of us to step up and stop labeling them and stop ridiculing them, stop separating them from the rest of the children, and create the schooling that I'm trying to create, and many other new earth education systems, so that they can thrive, so that we have a chance that the future generations have a much better experience than we have, and we can finally evolve and ascend. But it takes us adults right here, all of us, to do the work to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And not letting them get lost into the system and be put on the pharmaceuticals and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's very important that we protect our children. Okay. And yeah, 100%, Sherri. I love what you're doing.
Yeah, the pharmaceutical aspect, I mean, that's automatically dampening their frequency. And I obviously that's very strategic in my opinion. Maybe the people at the lowest level don't understand that, but where it comes from, that's I think there's no arguing that it actually, if there was a way to measure that frequency or your field, it makes you more susceptible to everything that they're trying to throw at you. So that's very apparent. But I agree, like the children right now, they're coming in with just amazing abilities and stuff, and memory of where they came from, which is something I find fascinating. And just the IQ level of the children themselves. I look at these kids now and what they're doing and what their interests are. I was fighting fake people dressed as a Power Ranger, out in my front yard, and they're out there like literally decoding and these programs and all this crazy stuff. But it's like, because every time a new generation is born, or every time somebody is accelerating in their journey, it's setting a new baseline for the entire collective. And then when these children come in, they have a new baseline to start from. And that's because we're just like raising that bar higher and higher until inevitably the planet's going to change. Like, it's going to take generations. Like, disclosure is only one aspect of this, but it's going to be a generational thing. And eventually that everything's just going to be here. It's just like the electric cars are just here now. And all these things, the self-checkouts, like all these things that like we never asked for, but they're just suddenly here. Well, that's the same is going to be for like Sasquatch or whatever. We're going to get to a place where they're just here and people are seeing them, and that's because that bar is being raised and we're setting a new baseline. So I'm excited about what's on the horizon. I think what we're seeing now with all this chaos online, I think there's a silver lining. A lot of people are scared. There's doom and gloom in that, but I don't see that. In fact, even if they do have a plan or a strategy, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot, because what's being released is actually going to be a massive catalyst for the inevitable awakening that's already happening, but it's definitely going to help push us along. And they can't keep the lid on much longer. So I think there's a bright future ahead as far as all this stuff, and the children are going to play a key role in that.
I agree.
I agree. I think that's a great way to kind of wrap up this evening. And keep your head up, keep your vibration up. They don't want us to know how powerful we are. We are co-creators. So every thought we have, all the words we use, the people we hang out with, the things we use, we choose to do with our time, we are co-creating. So we are either feeding into the machine and amplifying the negative timeline or not. And we are using our energy for positive, for good, for creation. And I did a video recently on my channel, and because anxiety is a huge epidemic. I believe it's an epidemic. I'm calling it that. I don't know if anyone else is calling it that, but I'm seeing it with the children that I work with and the clientele that I work with, which, by the way, exciting news. I just finished my newest children's book called Anxiety is Not the Boss of Me. And that will come out in March. So please look forward to that. Children need to understand what anxiety is, and it's not the boss of them, and how to work through it. I think adults honestly can learn something from that. But what we focus our attention on right now really truly matters, and we are in control more than they don't want us to realize how powerful we are, and we are in such powerful beings. We are activating and awakening, and we really are igniting, which is this year of the horse. So we're going to see a lot of momentum, but there are going to be ebbs and flows, ups and downs, and inevitably we're going to see the ups and the falls, and depending on the frequency and how you choose to observe and react, and how neutral you are, will determine your year. And I believe that wholeheartedly. What you focus your energy on is what you're going to get back. And so try to keep your head up. Anything else you guys want to say before we finish up for the evening? Any last words?
You fight it, you feed it. That's what you're, to sum up what you just said. You fight it, you feed it. It's because that's the exact frequency that you're being baited into, and whenever something is not going your way. So they want you to fight. You can fight, but you can fight by working on yourself. And I think that's what people need to understand the most. So that was a beautiful message, Sherri.
Thank you. And you're exactly right. They want us to react, because that all that does is feed the machine, the matrix, and keeps it going.
Man, I tell you what, the bear gets poked every day. I get poked all the time, y'all. Okay. And people, it's constant. It's just wild how constant. And I don't buy into it. Y'all can poke all you want. I suggest you don't. Okay. I'm not talking about y'all. I'm just talking about in general. Okay. Right. But there's a lot of poking going on right now. And that's fine. It's really testing our patient, I think, and testing our resilience and our healedness, right? To see like how much we've healed, and we're all going through this right now. And I gotta say, my son and I were both born in the year of the horse. Okay, so this is our year, y'all. I'm so looking forward to this year. I think we've got great things ahead. Please keep your vibrations high, everybody. And we're gonna gallop through this next year together. It's gonna be awesome. And full steam ahead, y'all.
Yeah, I love that. That should be the theme of today. We're gonna gallop through this year together. And then we'll make a shirt that says your cat is showing.
Yeah. And if this year is a horse race, we have a lead horse as the Great Awakening as its jockey. And we know which horse is going to win the race. So technically, it doesn't start until the 17th. We're still in the year of the snake, and February 17th is the transition. And actually, I think it makes a lot of sense. And this is something Lily kind of brought to my attention, is we are at the end of the year of the snake, which is we're shedding that final layer of skin, and everything in our life that is no longer in alignment. Maybe we attracted these situations or these people for a reason, but we've learned that lesson. We're moving past it. And like anything that doesn't belong is literally just coming off with that layer of skin as we shed our final layer before we move into this year of the horse, which I think for the people who are in alignment or doing whatever, operating from the heart, I think it's going to be a big year for those people who are, doing things for the right reasons.
I'm so glad you said that too, because we are still in that snake mode. And so the snakes are still revealing themselves. So if your intuition is telling you that you're seeing a snake, believe it. What's that saying?
Keep your grass cut short. Keep it cut low.
Yeah, right. That wasn't the one I was thinking of, but yeah,
it's a new one for you.
but that people are really showing their true colors right now. So don't doubt it. Believe it. If you feel something is off and people are not of the highest integrity, they're revealing their true self right now. They are also, as Lily's putting it, shedding off those layers, and then the true versions of themselves are showing. And so, don't doubt it. Believe your intuition and your gut instinct. The last thing I want to say tonight, I just want to quickly mention, I'm doing everything in my power to get the first open our first learning center here in Florida open. And I am putting a call out to the community, humbly asking for help. I have several fundraisers coming up locally here in Florida. And there are several ways that people can get involved. One, if anyone watching this is able and interested to donate any type of auction item, it could be anything. This is open to the public, so it's not going to be like a super UFO Bigfoot community, although I wouldn't mind some UFO Bigfoot, memorabilia. But if anybody has any paintings or memorabilia or anything that would be a good auction item, please reach out to me, info@sherridivband.com. It's a great donation. If I can give you a receipt for the nonprofit. That's going to help a lot, because we have at least 2 to 3 coming up, and I need a lot of swag essentially for these raffles and for the silent auctions. A third thing we're going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a virtual fundraising event coming up probably May. And I will be looking for people to also donate to that items. This could be virtual sessions. So all of you healers out there or practitioners, if you want to donate a session, again, please email me, that will work for that particular fundraising event.
She said, repeat your email really quick. Somebody asked you to repeat your email.
info@sherridivband.com. If you go on my website, sherridivband.com, you can also send me a memo through the contact there. You could also Facebook message me. So I am looking for those that are interested in being sponsors, who are interested in donating and also donating funds, but also donating items. I need help. I'm calling on the community to get this first prototype open so we can get this first center open for children. We can show the world what we can do, and then we can replicate it and get the momentum going. This is the year of the horse. This is the year that we are getting this done. Somebody commented on, they like the hummingbird I have here. The hummingbird represents Aramis in what we are doing and the transformation process of the education system and all that we are doing for children. And that's what the hummingbird represents. That's why I use the hummingbird for everything. And so please stay tuned for all of these events coming up. Your support means the world to me, because it's not just for me, it's for children of the future. Whether you have children or not, you care about this world and the future of this world. Please help and get involved in any way you can. So feel free to reach out to me. I would really appreciate it. And I'll give you more information soon on the virtual live event that we'll probably do early May. Okay, that's it. Sorry, that's my rant. Thank you for listening.
It's beautiful. And I actually just thought of the perfect auction item to donate. So
yay!
Yeah.
And I'm going to donate something too. I have a shop. It's called War Woman Goods, and I have vintage Native American jewelry and stuff. I will send you an item. I need to get your mailing address. I'll donate as well.
Thank you so much. I honestly appreciate any donation.
Yeah, I have this. Well, I'll tell you off air. It's really cool. I can share it now. People will be interested, but it's an old world map that I got from an old Tartarian building in St. Louis, Union Station. It was we were remodeling. I might as well just tell you, we were remodeling this Union Station. It's literally like a stereotypical Tartaria old world building. Doesn't fit in. The origin story doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit into this timeline. And we were remodeling it while I was in construction, and there was this amazing, this is way before my awakening, this gold, like beautiful frame with this old world map on it. And I was just so drawn to it. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I asked my boss, I was like, what are they doing with all this stuff? He goes, I think it's going to end up in a dumpster. I'm like, that thing is like, that's probably worth something. He's like, well, if it's not here at the end of the day, I won't say anything, type of thing. So I took it and looked it up back then. And like the cheapest version of it was like $500 on eBay or something, but there was other versions of it. And I've come to find out way later down the line is that it's actually an old world map with Tartaria on it. It still has Tartaria.
So cool.
Yeah, it says Tartaria, and it's amazing. Like this thing is like, I bet you like people would be very interested in it, and I've not known what to do with it. So I think it would be a perfect auction item. So
oh my God, Tyler, thank you so much. That sounds incredible. We'll talk more offline about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have gone far enough tonight. So thank you guys for volunteering to come back again and have a nice, fun, weird, anomalous, synchronistic conversation about random stuff. I think it was a lot of fun. Thank you for the participation of everybody watching and leaving comments or who might watch this later. Thank you guys for coming and joining in. Thanks, Jessica. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Until next